Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Fresh Outlook. I'm TWB. Thanks for joining us. So we're talking about the aftermath of the most recent presidential election. Obama will be continuing to serve for 4 more years, but a lot of people are very disappointed with his first term, and they're thinking to themselves, okay, what are you going to do now in your second? Lately, seems everyone has 2 words to say: fiscal cliff. Take a look.
To ride the fiscal cliff, President Barack Obama says the country's wealthiest people will have to pay more in taxes.
I'm not going to ask students and seniors and middle-class families to pay down the entire deficit while people like me making over $250,000 aren't asked to pay a dime more in taxes.
Obama's brief public comment set the tone for talks with congressional Republicans.
The American people voted for action, not politics as usual.
On the table is a stifling combination of deep spending cuts and the expiration of Bush-era tax cuts. They automatically take effect on the 1st of January and total $800 billion next year alone.
I think we both understand that trying to find a way to avert the fiscal cliff is important for our country.
While agreeing on a bipartisan approach, the GOP says raising tax rates is a non-starter.
Everyone wants to get our economy moving again. Everyone wants to get more Americans back to work again. Raising tax rates will slow down our ability to create the jobs that everyone says they want.
Boehner, Obama, and Senate leaders face a January 2nd deadline to reach an agreement. A new Congressional Budget Office report predicts the economy would fall into recession if there is a protracted impasse in Washington.
The Congressional Budget Office suggests that will immediately plunge us into recession by lowering our GNP to a minus somewhere around 4% in the first quarter and a little less than that in the second quarter. That's something that we can't afford.
We certainly cannot. That looming fiscal cliff, it is sort of the buzzword, or the 2 buzzwords of the week. So the bottom line, fiscal cliff 101, we're talking about taxes going up, spending getting cut, domestic spending, defense spending. Everyone is saying if they don't come to an agreement, both sides of the aisle, we are headed for a recession in an already pretty fragile economy. How will this play out, James?
I'm not so sure it's a cliff, number one.
Oh.
I think of it more as a fiscal curb.
Pebble?
Yes, it's like a slant down. It's not a
okay, it's a
drop
ram.
off.
It's a fiscal.
And it's a very, it's not going down that far. I mean,
a
couple things we need to bear in mind. So the repeal of the Bush tax cuts is something we need to have a much more complicated conversation about. And I personally feel like, yes, they should be repealed for the wealthy folk, but I think that some middle class folk also need to consider that as well. Like, I think if we're really all about this deficit, I think some upper middle class folk have got to contribute to that as well. The cuts.
What's the cutoff? Do you think?
Yeah, where is
I think
the
so. The
250,
president's
what,
at
100?
250. I think we should at least be prepared to have that conversation to go down to 100,000. Maybe if it's a shorter period of time. 150 to again, just bring it down even.
May I add, though, geographically, I think that it makes a big difference too. I think,
right, on where you
see
live.
what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Like if you're saying
yes.
150 in New York City, it's a little different than 150 in Wichita.
In Las Vegas, right?
Of course.
You know.
But again, if you look at the numbers, as you start to bring that down and repeal those tax cuts, the impact on our economy is expansive in getting more revenue in. It just is. So I think we should at least try to have that part of the conversation. But the cuts in defense are cuts that honestly we've got to make.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about this before, but our defense is bigger than the next 16 countries below us combined. Why is that? I mean,
because
do we really
launch wars where we don't
do we
need to.
It seems
and
so
in some
astronomical.
cases where we do need to go in and protect democracy in different parts of the world.
I mean,
But see, it's
I know
that
that's
big?
sometimes abused, but it's
but the
also
Ameri-
true in
but
some
the
cases.
American is suffering. You know, the American people
we
are
have what's
suffering.
called a military-industrial complex, and in this environment, what happens is all the policing stuff we could debate about, but what you see is us building a lot of tanks, building a lot of missiles, building a lot of planes that we don't use.
Right.
And so there's no big contracts between the government and certain private entities.
So why doesn't Obama agree with that? I mean, it's just they're sitting there collecting dust, if you ask me, while the average American suffers.
Well, part of the idea of being American is having a strong military. I mean, you heard Mitt Romney talk a lot about
but
that.
But it is
and
strong.
How
You
much
don't need,
Well, I'm just saying that, when you talk about cutting it, then it sounds as though it might be weaker than it would if you didn't cut it. And even though, because it seems more flaccid to say we need to have a strong economy, it's, it's the might versus the smarts. You know what I'm saying? It's sort of the idea.
More
and it's
about politics than about reality.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, I think that if the debate can be shifted to, saying it's not just about the fact that we have more tanks and planes and drones and things like that. It's more about the fact that if we can take that money, rechannel it into a way that is going to make our economy stronger, then we'll get back to being the America that we've been and that we can be, as opposed to just showing our, showing our muscle and expecting people to respect us because
think
we
our
demand
muscles
it.
are
Money
big enough.
spent in the military-industrial complex is money that goes into a very, very strong agency within our economy, and I think that it's felt on many levels. I mean, it's a lot of money.
Well, I mean-
you can argue that there's too much
terms
money
of
going
employment, in
but
terms of
yes,
jobs.
in
Can I
terms
ask you,
of really
WJ?
kind of floating up the economy. It wasn't FDR and his policies that actually got us out of the Great Depression. It was the Second World War.
Can I ask you a question? Let's just go back to the topic at hand, this fiscal cliff. Are we headed to over the cliff?
I think that's
What's gonna happen?
incendiary
Will we
language.
reach an agreement?
I think that if you look at the body language of John Boehner, he's ready to make a deal.
You think?
I do.
Really?
I think that everybody has heard the public loud and clear to say we're sick of this, deadlock, and we're sick of this recession, and we're sick of not having jobs, and we don't really know what to do. We elected you to help figure this out and to help work this out. So I'm hopeful that when Obama meets with John Boehner on Wednesday, I believe it is, this coming
Because we
week.
either go into
Obama
a
has the political
recession.
capital to make these demands and actually to win in this discussion.
Where do you stand on sort of, do you agree with James that we should sort of have the upper middle class pay
Well-
more taxes as well, not just those 200 and 250?
I think sure, because anybody who can literally afford to, I mean, I have a lot of friends that are multimillionaires, and some of them have, real problems with having Obama having been elected again because they know that they're going to fork over more of their own personal income. On the other hand, if you talk about percentages of actual income and you talk about the floor that you need to survive, it's not about the poverty level. That is an antiquated old formula, as you know, James, I'm sure, that doesn't even work anymore, but we still use it for whatever reason. And
to fool ourselves into thinking we're more prosperous than we are.
the basic, what I'm getting at is when you're having trouble putting food on the table, not even gas in the car, but just food on the table or a roof over your head, those things need to be taken into account against somebody who might want to take another vacation or do another investment.
The working poor.
All right, guys.
Yeah.
Well, I just want to segue for a moment. Breaking news that the head of the CIA has resigned, General Petraeus. So there's a lot of talk about what happens now in terms of Obama's cabinet. Not that Petraeus was in the cabinet, but Hillary Clinton will not serve another term. So everyone's wondering what will happen with Obama's cabinet. Who's coming in? Who's going out? Take a look.
Hillary Clinton plans on leaving her post in President Barack Obama's second term. She has been at the forefront of the Afghan mission, Libya's unrest, and the Syrian crisis. State Department spokeswoman Victoria Nuland reiterated her boss's plans to step down.
She intends to see through a transition of a successor, and then she will go back to private life and enjoy some rest and think and write and all those things.
Political analysts have been handicapping the race to succeed Clinton for months. They have come up with the same short list of potential successors, including Senator John Kerry, UN Ambassador Susan Rice, and National Security Advisor Tom Donilon. The departure by Clinton will not be the only shakeup in Obama's core national security team. It remains unclear how long Treasury Secretary Timothy Geithner and Attorney General Eric Holder will continue to serve.
You shake up sports teams?
Well, there was enough that wasn't.
And we're
shaken.
back. We were just discussing, you made a comment, you said Susan Rice, no way, there's no chance. She has no chance.
Well, only because of the Benghazi situation and the attention that's being paid to it. General Petraeus' resignation is only going to draw more attention to it. He was scheduled to testify this upcoming week. I don't remember, is he going to testify?
He won't.
Conspiracy theory.
No, he won't.
He
He will not. No.
And so the conspiracy theorists are going to come out
Sure.
all over this, and I think
not a
it's unfortunate.
conspiracy.
Well, no,
Come
I
on.
mean, they said, is part of the reason why this is, dropping now is because it will prevent him from talking about that. And Susan Rice, of course, had talked about the anti-Muslim film as potentially being part of the whole Benghazi thing, and that's been discounted. So that's why she's sort of out there. What I like, the scenario I like the most is...
Do tell.
Well, no, if Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, if she leaves, what if we get Bill in there? you know, because it's been talked about whether or not you could do that even, because he's already served 2 terms. And the reality is
Why
that...
couldn't he?
He's always been ready.
Well, you can, as long as it's not opposed, because the line of succession is 1, 2, 3,
We're stronger
4.
in this, or the Democrats are stronger in the Senate, so he'll have an easier time getting approved who he would like to get approved. It'd be interesting to see if
Let me ask you this:
Clinton
does
would
Mitt
step
Romney
into
have a
that role.
chance of being put in the
There's a
cabinet?
lot of talk of him actually being the
there's-
kind of the business czar on the new cabinet, and I think while he
And
poo-pooed
Obama
the
has a
idea
history
earlier,
of doing, and Obama has a history of doing that.
And I think that would
it'd be
be
a good
great.
move.
And
Good
one other
move,
thing
okay.
is that we saw John Kerry in that video, the senator from Massachusetts who served for a long time alongside Ted Kennedy. Well, in Massachusetts, the other Senate seat, Ted Kennedy's seat that was given to Scott Brown in a special election a couple of years ago, but went to Democrat Elizabeth Warren, who
Right.
once was the Consumer Protection Agency head under Obama, and then ran this campaign against Scott Brown, the Republican. If John Kerry gets to be Secretary of State, they're talking about Scott Brown going for John Kerry's seat in the
Ooh.
Senate in Massachusetts, which is another interesting twist to the whole thing. So I don't know if John Kerry will do it or not. He's obviously been, you know, extremely involved in foreign relations as the head of Foreign Relations Committee, and so he would know the territory.
Well, you look at, just back to that Romney thing. I mean, Hillary Clinton lost to Obama in the primary. She went to work for him. Does Mitt Romney have, I don't know, call it his pride, his ego? Would he ever accept a position if Obama reached out?
I'm not sure the Obama campaign will reach, or the Obama administration will reach out. If they did, I would think he'd have to take it pretty seriously, because where else does he go in terms of his political life at
Well,
this
they say it
point?
could be over. I mean,
Right,
he's,
it could
I don't know
he's
that
done.
he wants to. He's already run a couple of times. A couple of folks that I've talked to said he might go back to his more humanitarian work and do more missionary work and that kind of thing. Probably
He'll be on
within
Fox
his
News
church.
Channel in a few
I
months.
hope not. I hope not.
He
I
may,
hope not.
but you know, I think that as far as the makeup of the Obama administration and what the future of the politics, you know, is going to hold, you know, we've talked about Marco Rubio on the Republican side as sort of being the new darling potentially on the Republican side, and we'll see where that goes. But I think that there's a lot of room because he's, as we talked about before, Obama is going to have an opportunity to talk about 1 to 3 Supreme Court justices as well, and that can sway a lot of things, including the billions of dollars that they spent on PAC money.
Part of the reason why there's some concern, knowing that Geithner is going to leave, knowing that Clinton's going to leave, knowing now that Petraeus is gone, is that we are in some pretty sensitive times in terms of our outreach and our impact around the world. And so that kind of turnover it has to be done very, very sensibly and with a great matter of measured sort of concern about who are the people we can get into these positions that can continue the great work. Hillary Clinton has been an extraordinary Secretary of State.
Of course, the irony,
don't
though, as
go,
I was saying
don't
on
go.
break, is that after
Don't
she
go,
gets
Hillary.
she gets her hair and makeup right, now she's going to leave.
I know, that's the best joke of the day. Finally gets her hair and makeup right, and now
Listen,
she's gone. I agree
think
with
the
that.
championship sports teams have to be taken apart and you put them back together
back
again.
together
It's
again.
not unlikely for the cabinet to be disassembled and then put back together again. And I think actually the Romney option in terms of reconciliation and détente, I think is actually a wonderful
I think that's
option. I think that someone's
Guys,
going to take him up on
We
it.
have a minute left. I guess maybe this can be fluid. The next segment we're supposed to talk about Sandy. We haven't spoken about the CIA head's resignation, General Petraeus. I mean, sort of breaking news.
Breaking news on Friday. It's a really sad day. General Petraeus is an American hero. I think people should be clear on the fact that lots of politicians have affairs and have extramarital challenges.
But
and
to
marital
put us at risk to that extent,
Right, that's
and
the-
the world
that's
at
the-
risk,
that's
come
the
on,
thing,
it is,
yeah.
it is.
what a foolish thing
It is a
to
risk,
do.
and it's a risk if I don't get to this commercial break. So when we come back, we're going to discuss the other topic on everyone's mind lately, the aftermath of Hurricane Sandy. That's next. We'll also delve into a little bit more on the head of the CIA resigning. That's next on Fresh Outlook.